You're listening to Fearless Broadcasting, brought to you by the members of 12160.org.
Illuminati, you've come to take control. You can take my heartbeat, but you can break my soul. We all shall be free.
Today is December 29th, 2009. You're listening to Fearless Broadcasting News, brought to you by members of 12160.org. I'm your host, Harry Thomas. Headlines are reading, Foiled Terrorist Bombing in Detroit, an excuse to expand the bogus war on terror. The firecracker explosion heard on Northwest Airlines Flight 253 on Christmas Day were immediately linked to Al-Qaeda in Yemen. The United States is providing assistance to Yemeni government to bomb supposed Al-Qaeda bases in the southern part of that country. On the day before Christmas, Reuters reported Al-Qaeda militants made a rare public appearance in restive South Yemen on Monday, telling an anti-government rally that the group's war was with the United States and not the Yemen army, residents said. The suspect is a Nigerian man named Umar Farooq Abdul Muttalib. CNN airs eyewitness testimony that well-dressed Indian accomplice helped suspect board without passport, and that man on plane filmed entire flight and bombing attempt. These witnesses reported. The only person that spoke was the Indian man, and what he said was, quote, "This man needs to board the plane, but he doesn't have a passport." And the ticket agent responded, quote, "Well, if he doesn't have a passport, he can't get on that plane." To which the Indian man responded back, "He's from Sudan. We do this all the time." And the ticket agent said, "Well, you'll have to go and talk to my manager," and she directed him down a hallway. Strange behaviors from the suspect were reported to U.S. officials by the bomber's father prior to the event. If he had help getting on the flight with no passport after having been reported to U.S. authorities by his own father, what is the true explanation for the man seen filming the entire flight? Another witness on board the flight, Rochelle Keepman, said she noticed the mysterious cameraman at the beginning of the flight, believing the man might have been simply excited about a first flight or etc. Later, when the bombing incident took place, she says the cameraman was the only one standing up and intently filming the entire incident. Here's a headline that read, Ron Paul says agenda behind bombing incident is more war, more attacks on liberty. Congressman says, I am concerned what they are going to do to the American people. Congressman Ron Paul fears that the agenda behind the Flight 253 bombing incident is to expand the war on terror into Yemen while stripping Americans of more liberties, warning that it's time people woke up and realized that the government cannot guarantee their safety. The congressman highlighted how the bombing attempt followed a geopolitical turmoil in Yemen in the form of attacks in the country launched by the Saudis with the endorsement of the U.S., and how sectors of the media and politicians were now calling for Yemen to be a new front in the war on terror as a consequence of the Christmas Day incident. It seems ironic that there is so much excitement about this and now talk about attacking Yemen, said Paul, adding that it is the United States' presence in Yemen that represented a threat to America, not the purported presence of Al-Qaeda members in Yemen. Paul raised the question of how a $75 billion a year intelligence gathering structure failed to stop a dangerous man who had no passport and was on the terror watch list from boarding a plane. Paul said the people punished for the incident would not be those who failed to stop the terrorist, but the American people. The congressman went on to say, quote, "The bigger the problem, the more the fear is built up. the more they will take away our personal liberties and turn us all into zombies, and the American people go along with it and say, as long as it makes us safer, I guess it's okay to go along. But it's time the American people woke up and started realizing that there's a bit of propaganda going on, and quite possibly this incident will not only undermine our personal liberties, but will also accelerate our intervention and the violence occurring in the Middle East. Now, personally, here, I believe that this is a staged event to be used to perpetrate the war on terror and further the ratcheting up of the police state at home. I mean, we've seen all these MOs before. We've seen them do this kind of stuff before. With that being said, another headline reads, "Would you be happy to take the naked body scan?" High-tech body scanners can see through clothes to detect hidden weapons or explosives, such as those used in the failed Christmas Day plot. They produce an anatomical image of passengers' bodies, including breasts and genitalia, and have been attacked as too intrusive. Critics have described them as a virtual strip search. How long is the public going to accept these intrusions? Answer: as long as they allow themselves to be intimidated by fear. I want to end today's broadcast with a short part of a blog posted by a 12160.org member named Jeff. The headline was, "Time to Abolish the U.S. Congress." As these sellouts argue over which of their money-stealing schemes will fly without provoking a revolution among the sheep, the illegal wars that they have authorized rage on in multiple countries. For our own sakes, for the sake of posterity, and for the sake of humanity itself, the American people must activate their absolute right and duty to abolish this government. Yes, it is that time. Here on 12160 megahertz, we have certain goals in common. We argue about the details, but our common desires keep us active here. The details are unimportant as long as the larger goals are unfulfilled. The larger goals require certain actions, and the first and foremost in my mind is riddling ourselves of the congressional cheats, liars, murderers, and scoundrels. That means all of them. Unfortunately, this includes the president. I'd like to remind you all of a certain piece of our history below. In Congress, July 4th, 1776, the unanimous declaration of the 13 United States of America. This post goes on past this point. You can check it out at 12160.org. The whole blog is posted up there, and I'd have to say I agree with Jeff. It's time we start locking up these criminals as they're committing their crimes. You know, the jig is up, the news is out. We know what you're up to, and it's time to start holding people accountable for their actions. And I want to invite you to join us on 12160.org, the largest independent anti-New World Order social network on the planet. This has been a Fearless Broadcast. More information can be found at fearlessbroadcasting.info. Benjamin Franklin long ago warned us that if we restrict liberty to attain security, we will lose both. And those willing to make that bargain deserve neither their liberty nor security. I want to thank you for listening.
You're listening to Fearless Broadcasting, brought to you by the members of 12160.org.